For the next 30 minutes, we will explore the unexplained. From mysteries beyond our galaxy to ghostly phenomena in our own backyard, we will dive into our psychic abilities and explore everything from conspiracies to the just plain weird. Welcome to 30-odd minutes. If the truth is out there, we will find it. But only by sheer accident.
Hey, thank you very much. Welcome to 30-odd minutes. This is going to be kind of an exciting show because we're going by the seat of our pants tonight. Whew.
How's that different from other shows?
Right.
Good point. It's going to be pretty much the same as any other show. We're going to do our best to get through this. It's going to be an amazing show because this is such an incredible story that we're so happy to be bringing to you tonight. Okay, want to remind you, if you're watching the show live in our chat room at 30oddminutes.com, jump in. There it is. Sarah and Rob and Matt. Matt's in the back. Hey, Matt. And Oddbot 3000 are waiting to take your messages and pass them up to myself and the guest, which we're going to try to get on the line here in just a second because it's going that way. Hey, how about that new opening?
Yeah.
Huh?
Yeah.
That was very cool. Love it.
Bigfoot came and helped us out with it.
Was very nice of him. Thank you very much. We did get some emails this week. Sarah, please, what did our lovely viewers have to say?
You know, aside from the plethora of emails saying how awesome the intro is and how complete the show truly is now, I got some pretty cool little comments on Facebook and Twitter, so I thought I'd change it up a little bit and do those. So we have one from a Matt Cunningham who said, "This was fantastical Magoria." I'm totally using that word now. Fantastical Magoria. Awesome. And then we got a couple Twitters. One from LA Paranormal said, "Way to finagle a drawing out of H.C. Knoll, Jeff." That was his intention. Free drawing. He'll take what he can get. And then we have one from Almost a Ghost 13 that says, "Having some cocktails and enjoying the interviews on 30-odd minutes." That's what we do. Booze and brew and us.
All right. Well,
Anything to
thank
get
you.
you through it. Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, sometimes the more you drink, the better the show is. It just works out that way. So thank you, guys. If you want to write to us, info at 30oddminutes.com. Follow us on Twitter, fan us on Facebook, or just hunt us down on the street at this point. It'll be great. All right, so we're doing things a little differently tonight. Apologies, but this is such a great guest. We want to do it this way anyway. We're talking about alien abduction. It's such a powerful experience. If something's out there in the universe, are they coming down? Are they getting us? Tonight's guest says yes. We are going to get him on the phone. Sorry, it's not going to be video for you tonight, but we're going to get him on the phone in just a second. Travis Walton, on November 5th, 1975, a group of loggers working in the mountains of northeastern Arizona saw a strange bright light in the sky. One of the men, Travis Walton, left the safety of his truck to check it out. As he walked toward the light, he was blasted back by a mysterious bolt of energy. His fellow loggers left in fear and then later returned to get help. For 5 days, authorities mounted a massive manhunt for Walton's body. He suddenly turned up on the side of the road in the middle of the night. His book, Fire in the Sky, is one of the best documented accounts of alien abduction to date. In 1993, Paramount Studios made the book into a movie starring James Garner, Robert Patrick, and D.B. Sweeney. We've got that picture up here any second. And tonight you get to hear from the witness himself. Folks, getting him on the phone, if you wouldn't mind, Rob, live from the mountains of Arizona, we're going to get Travis on the phone here in just a second.
Hello.
Travis, how are you?
I'm fine.
All right, this is Jeff Belanger. You are live on 30-odd minutes. We're doing this by phone tonight. We do appreciate you being with us. Rob, if you could go down to the bottom and click that Microsoft Excel, the PowerPoint presentation. We'll bring up a picture there. Perfect, thank you. Travis, we've got your photo up. Thank you for joining us.
Well, I apologize for the technical difficulties.
No, that's okay. This is such an important story. We really want to go through with this interview anyway. We want to talk to you about it. I think a lot of us, everyone here saw the movie anyway. A lot of us have read your book and are familiar with the case. Could you just take us back to November 5th of 1975? You're near Snowflake, Arizona. It's early evening. Can you talk about what you saw?
Well, there were 7 of us. We were in the work truck, and we were headed home. And we saw these lights coming through the trees, and it wasn't real clear what it was at first, but when we finally got to the clearing where we could see without any trees between us and it, there it was, and it was unmistakable. The skeptics had the theory that, maybe we saw the planet Jupiter off in the distance. Nothing of the sort. Everybody there will tell you less than 100 feet away was a metallic object, a disc-shaped craft, hovering there, just distinctly outlined against the sky. No mistake about what it was. It was giving off light, but it wasn't so blinding that we couldn't see the surface of the object. And it was so distinct that one of the guys in the back yelled out, "It's a spaceship," or "It's a flying saucer," something like that, right off the bat. And but when the truck stopped, I got out and went closer to it, thinking that it would be gone before I got up close. But that isn't what happened. When I got up close, it was it didn't move, and the closer I got, the more afraid I got, and I guess the more scared the guys in the truck got, and they were yelling at me to get away from there and get back in the truck. And at that point, I didn't need to be told. I was trying to figure out kind of how to make a graceful exit, but
Right.
It suddenly got louder and moved, started to rise up, and so I jumped for cover behind a log, and I was wanting to run back to the truck. So when I rose up to go, I just felt this shock go through my body, and I blacked out. But something really powerful hit me. The crew said that a blast of energy came out of the bottom of the craft and hit me in the upper body and just sent me flying through the air. And, it was much more violent than in the movie. In the movie, it kind of looks like this little light comes on and sort of tosses the actor backwards. But from what the crew described to me, they said it was like a stick of dynamite or a grenade going off, just blasting me through the air and my body tumbling and falling limp like a rag doll. So much so that they yelled out, "It killed him," and they were yelling at each other, "He's dead," and that's what made them take off. And I don't find any fault with them for doing that, because at that point they thought I was dead, and for all they knew, they were next.
Right. Now, so when I first, read the book and saw the movie, I think my first thought was, what were you thinking? But then I thought about it, and if it were me, I'm sure I would have done the same thing. I would have seen this fantastical thing, because I've had this situation. When I was 10 years old, I had a UFO encounter. My dad and I saw this thing. My dad called to me, and we walked right toward it. We walked right under it. We were so in awe. So I would have done the same thing. I have no doubt about it. But at the same time, in reading your book, it sounds like you and your coworkers didn't get along so well in general. Did you? So I mean, as far as them leaving you there, I mean, do you think that had anything to do with it?
Well, they had every reason to think that they would be killed too.
Yeah. Okay. Fair enough. Now we actually have some of these images. There's this is from your website, and you can get links to Travis's website from ours. So there's a few artist renditions of what he saw. So you've got this glowing disc in the sky, amazing. You go to investigate it, and what's the first thing you recall? I mean, as far as you know, you're blown back, you're knocked unconscious. What's the first thing you recall after coming to?
I'm sorry. Well, I was lying on my back, and I was in a lot of pain, and I was in and out of consciousness. And at first I didn't even know where I was. And but then I remembered finally, approaching that object, but I thought somehow I'd been hurt and that the crew had taken me to the emergency room. So I thought I was in some kind of medical facility. I was lying on a raised gurney or some sort of surface, and they had some sort of instrument over my chest, and there was a lot of pain there. It didn't really seem to be coming from the thing that was laying across my chest, but I was having a lot of trouble breathing, and I didn't want to move too much because, I might make things worse. But there was a light above me, and I was just thinking that these forms moving around me, I couldn't focus very clearly, were medical people, but when I finally could focus my eyes, I just flipped out because, these weren't doctors, these were these creatures right there, very close to me.
And now, had you ever experienced anything paranormal like that before this event?
Oh, no. This was the shock of my life. There's nothing to compare to it before or since. But I just freaked out. I just completely flipped out and sort of lost my mind with fear. And, people a lot of times don't understand that. People raised on a lot of sci-fi images that, are so over-the-top horrifying, today compared to what
Right.
I grew up on. But you got to understand that, when you see something that strange, that close up, when you're feeling that kind of pain, plus, I was really short of breath. I was struggling to breathe. And, when you feel like you're suffocating, that puts a kind of panic situation into you that, goes beyond anything you could reason away.
Yeah, fight or flight, I'm sure, would kick in, as you describe in your book, where you lash out. You're a cornered animal, no question. How did these creatures react to you once they saw you were conscious and moving around?
Well, they at first came towards me, and they had a bunch of stuff, instruments and things spread out there. But all I was looking for was something to fend them off with. So I grabbed the biggest thing there and made threatening gestures toward them. Before they ever got close enough to hit, they stopped and sort of extended their hands towards me, whatever that meant. That seemed kind of threatening to me, but in hindsight, maybe it wasn't. But abruptly, they just all three turned and left by the door that was behind them. And so I was afraid they'd come back, and they'd gone to the right, so I went to the left, looking for a way out of this thing, which, wasn't really thinking too clearly. It was just kind of a panic reaction because, it's probably a good thing I wasn't able to find a door and open it because, I was thinking this thing was still hovering above the ground in the woods, and I could just hop out and to safety, but no telling where it was. So it's probably a good thing I didn't open it.
Right.
But
how much time is passing during all this? How much time goes by as you're making your way around the ship?
Well, I was in a totally freaked out, terrified thing where every movement seems like slow motion at the same time. It's all pumped with adrenaline. It's hard to estimate time, but it wasn't very long before a man came in and took me out of there. At least I thought he was a man, a human-looking person.
Right.
And he took me out of the craft. And so, I don't know at what point this craft was taken into this parking area or whatever it was. But it was inside of a large room.
Like a hangar.
Yeah, like it was a hangar-looking thing, very hangar-looking, because the ceiling curved down to form one wall, kind of shaped like a quarter of a cylinder, and there was like maybe panels that sunlight could filter through
Right.
On the ceiling.
Yeah, we're actually showing the picture from Michael Rogers right now from your website. So
Yeah.
the artist's rendition.
Anyway, it was a much brighter, more natural light. It was rather than the dim interior of that craft, and it was much easier to breathe. But this guy was in a big hurry to get me out of there, and he hustled me across the floor there to a hallway, and he took me down that hallway and left me in a room where there were some other people who were dressed like him, except for one thing. They didn't have that helmet on. And so I thought that, maybe the reason he hadn't been answering all my questions and whatnot was because he was wearing the helmet. But they didn't answer my questions either. And then they started trying to get me to lay down on this table, and I was having a lot of misgivings because, up to that point, I thought that they had, like, rescued me from these small creatures, but I wasn't so sure all of a sudden, and so I started fighting back, and they pushed me down on the table, and but I was still pretty weak and pretty woozy, but there was three of them, and they were very strong. I really didn't have much of a chance, but
Yeah.
I was fighting with every ounce I had. I was able to get my hand free when they put that mask over my face, but I wasn't able to pull it away in time to prevent it from knocking me out.
And so once you're knocked out a second time, what do you recall the next time you woke up?
Well, I was lying face down on cold, hard surface, and it was the pavement of the roadway, and there was a light above me. I looked to see where the light was coming from, and there was a craft hovering there, and the light went out, and it shot straight up into the sky, just incredibly fast, without making a sound barrier, boom, or anything. It was gone.
Yeah,
But,
and now you recognize you're on terra firma, you're on the street. Did you know where you were? Did you recognize your surroundings?
Yeah, I looked down the hill and I could see the lights of the town down below, and I recognized this is Heber, the town nearest where I was taken. And so I ran down into the town and hammered on a door, and nobody came. So I ran on down across the next bridge and found some telephone booths. And the first one was out of order, which really, I was at the end of my rope. As far as the strength it took to run there in the shape I was in. But the next phone booth worked, and I was able to get my family to come and get me. And I don't know how long. It had to have been at least 45 minutes, but it seemed like I no more collapsed there than they were picking me up and putting me in the truck.
Right, and how far was the drop-off point from where you were abducted? I mean, as the crow flies.
Oh, it wasn't too far. It was like 15 miles of rugged country.
Right.
But during the time that I was missing, the crew had been through quite a bit. When they took off, they tried to get some help from some hunters, but weren't able to catch up to them. And so they finally, now in the movie they had Mike Rogers coming back alone, but that wasn't the case. All of the crew came back, because when he said, this truck is going back and anybody who doesn't want to can wait here for us, nobody volunteered to stand alone in the dark, which,
Right.
doesn't make sense. In the movie they had people agree to do it, but rather than Mike going back alone, they all went back, which
Right.
took a lot of courage. And I give them credit for that, because they thought they'd just seen me killed, and
Well, as a reminder, folks, it's been 5 days since you left to the time where you call your family. This wasn't, to you it felt like maybe a few hours, and 5 days had gone by. Travis, we have to take a quick break. When we come back, I want to talk about pretty much what your life has been like since this event, the fallout and things like that. We'll be right back. We take the paranormal seriously, and we document everything. Do you have what it takes to be an oddball? Are you going to a paranormal conference, a quirky legend trip, or a paranormal investigation? If so, grab your camera, take some video, and send it in. We want to see what you captured. See our website, 30oddminutes.com, for more information. Hey, and we're back. That is a reminder, we do want to see your field reports. Please do send them in. We love getting your emails and all that other fun stuff, so thank you. All right, Travis, so you're back. It's been 5 days. The authorities were already notified. What's the fallout once you come back and you make this claim?
Well, during the time I was gone, they had this massive manhunt, combing the woods in every possible place to find me. The men were accused of murdering me and making up a story to cover it up, so the sheriff had called in the state police polygraph examiner and had them all tested. And when they passed that, it was just a matter of coming up with some other way of trying to explain it away. So, there was the theory that I'd had a transitory psychosis. There was the theory that it was all a drug hallucination. But, what the reporters never asked the people that were putting out these theories was, how do 7 people have the same hallucination down to every detail,
Right.
So I underwent a whole battery of tests, medical tests, and psychiatric exams. Disproved that there was any mental problem, that there was any trace of drug in my body. And, it's just been battling one accusation after another. I've passed 6 different lie detector tests by 3 different examiners. All of the men have been tested, some of them more than once, some other people involved. The number of past tests is now up to 17 or 18.
Right.
And even back when it was 7, the head of the American Polygraph Association said that it would have been a chance of more than 1,000,000 to 1 that an examiner could make an erroneous judgment with that many tests involved. So a lot of anomalous things came out about the site. There was some magnetic readings and some ozone that was measured there, some radiation readings. And in the movie, at the end of there's credits for Geiger Counter Man, and that was a scene that was filmed that was never used because they wanted to preserve for the audience the suspicion that this was just a story that the men made up to cover up for a murder until later in the story. But they threw a lot of false clues in the movie against it, and in that same pursuit of trying to preserve the illusion of a murder for the audience. But
and that's a storytelling thing, of course, and we understand that. But what about physical evidence on you? Did you have any scars or markings when you came back that you couldn't explain?
I went through a whole battery of medical exams, and the physician found a red mark on the inside of one arm, but he said it was not over any blood vessels. So, it couldn't have been anything like an intravenous connection, and there was no object or anything implanted there because you couldn't feel anything under that spot.
Right.
And I think it was probably just an injury that I got at work before the incident. The doctor said it was partially healed, and there was a slight anomaly in an EEG, an electroencephalogram, which was interesting because that was the technician had no idea anything about me. As a matter of fact, the doctor that ordered the test had me put in there under another name, so because the media was just incredible.
Yeah.
Just trying to leave that place. This was at the Barrows Neurological Institute, a very famous brain facility in Phoenix. And just trying to leave the parking lot, somebody said, "There he is!" And they chased us through traffic. So it was really crazy. By the time I was returned, it was a worldwide story, and there were camera crews in town from England and Japan, but it was just quite an intense time for this sleepy little western town to have something like this happen here.
Yeah. Well, and talk about your life after that event. I mean, you're the guy that was abducted by aliens. I mean, how do you live with that? I mean, we're going on.
Well, it was really, really difficult. Whether it's people that are reacting to it who believe it or trying to treat me like a celebrity or something, or people who think I'm some kind of a wacko. Either one is not getting to go back to being me. I never got my life back, and so you have to play with the cards that life deals you, and so. More and more lately, I've come to realize that, although there's a tremendous burden having had this happen to me, with it comes a great responsibility. And I think I've shouldered that fairly well. I've taken the skeptics on head on. In my book, I take each and every charge and direct the reader towards verifiable independent sources, experts and documents and physical evidence that totally disprove every theory that's ever been pushed against it. And so, I think a lot of outside, observers, people have commented to that effect about, what I've written there.
On your website, you talk about your story, the attempts to suppress your story. What kind of things did you experience, and do you still experience that all these years later?
Well, some of it, I believe, came from covert agencies whose job it is to discredit these kind of things. And that's one type. But there's another thing that's been going on, and it's still going on, is people who pretend to have some intimate connection to someone close to the center of the story in order to sound important or be, come off like they're somebody,
Right.
And it's not all negative. There was one guy who was a pro supporter, but he was bragging that he attended the homecoming party that, thrown for me after my return. But unfortunately, that party never occurred. That was an invention by the movie.
I see.
But there's a guy out there on the internet now claiming to be a nephew of one of the lawmen involved, and he has made up a whole concoction of stories. It's just totally ridiculous. How easily disprovable these things are, but he gets his little 5 minutes of attention trying to put the story down and act like he knows what happened. But it's time after time some kind of an imposter. There's a guy out there making the circuit on a UFO convention claiming to be my cousin, claiming that he was he has the same last name, so he's claiming that the aliens were really after him and got me by mistake. And it's totally absurd. I accosted him about that and asked him to prove that we had one single relative in common, and he said, no, we don't. But so he said he would stop making that claim, but he's still doing it. So
that's funny. Like you said, people want to become part of the story because it's so compelling, because it's so well known now. Even skeptics who want to shoot it down want to write the last chapter of that story, which is something we see in all aspects of the paranormal, other pursuits as well. So have you been in contact now with other abductees since? Have you found people need to share their story with you for support?
Yeah, I'm contacted by a lot of people, and some of them have reports that I think ring true and others that don't. But I would never dream of fingering anybody as to what I think, because it's still just my opinion.
Sure.
And in my book, I criticize the people who wanted to pass judgment on this case before they even had the facts. And to this day, a lot of the skeptics are people who never even read the book. They don't know what I have to say, so how can they attack what I have to say?
Right. Understood. Travis,
in my book, I quoted Emerson. Condemnation without investigation is the height of ignorance.
Absolutely.
And so I never wanted to make that mistake by, commenting on someone else's report without having done the investigation myself.
Travis, we appreciate you being with us. We are right up to the edge of our time. The name of the book is Fire in the Sky. More information from our website. We will link to Travis's as well. Want to thank everyone for watching. Travis, thank you for sharing this story with us again. Appreciate you being with us tonight.
Well,